It's time for The Way It Is, and I'll go straight to introducing the panel this morning. To my extreme left, we have Senator Omar Hassan, Mombasa County Senator, and also the Secretary General for Wiper Party. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Did you indulge in the football over the weekend?
Yeah, I was, I'm an ardent Liverpool fan.
So you're one of those who are counting losses.
How can you not? How can you have 3 penalties saved? I've never understood that at that level of soccer. I mean, 3 consecutive penalties that you lose. I mean, that was a bit it was a bit disappointing.
Okay.
But we did also do a lot of other activities that tend to, enhance public good.
Okay.
But today also is a unique day. We'll not have a 29th for the next 4 years.
Yes, for the next 4 years. So anybody celebrating their birthday today, they better enjoy it, because for another 4 years they'll not be celebrating it. All right, next to him we have Moses Kajwang, who's a senator for Homa Bay. Thank you for joining us. Are you also a football fan?
Oh yes, and
Manchester United maybe?
Not Manchester United. I'm an Arsenal fan, so it was quite a
lot for you as well.
Weekend. And a few days before, Gor Mahia was also bundled out of the African Championship. So it's been a week of heartbreak
for you.
Yeah.
The only thing I found strange about Arsenal fans, I don't doubt that you can play Barcelona, but you cannot win against Barcelona. After the match, all of them said, "Oh, we played so well." No, what happens actually? What counts in the match is the scoreline.
It's scoring.
We are maturing. We'll get there.
All right. Last but not least, we have Charles Njagagwa, who is the MP from Berry North. Welcome. Are you also a football fan?
I'm a Ghana for so many years. It was terrible that we lost to Man United.
So it looks like on this set I'm the only one who's celebrating, because I'm Manchester United. Everybody seems to have been counting their losses.
Because it was a far-fetched victory. You didn't expect it.
No, very young.
Oh, well.
Beaten by very young. You know, the worst bit about this, Arsenal always comes with this trajectory, and then boom. You know, I am never at any illusion that Arsenal will go anywhere. They're always developing.
Well, somebody say they're always developing and they live on hope, but that hope never seems to pay off. But anyway, matters football aside, we've had Robin Toskin talking about that, but now let's get to The Way It Is. And remember, you're welcome to participate. You can do that via Twitter. The Twitter handle is at KTN News, or you can also tweet me directly, and that's at Mike Gitonga. We'll also have the guests' Twitter handles displayed on the screen as we go along, and feel free to tweet directly to them as well. Now, gentlemen, let's start with the trip that the president made to Israel. And what for me was take home, apart from the fact that we may have the Kulalu Galana project begin, is some of the statements that he made while he was away. And let's first of all just listen to what the president had to say, then we can start off from there.
Kenya pia Mungu ametupatia nchi ambaye nzuri mara 20 kuliko hii tuko hapa, lakini tukitembea ni kulia, ni kuiba. Ndio sisi hiyo tuko na ujuzi pia.
So just to quote the president, and part of what he said is that God has given us Kenya, a country that is 20 times better than Israel, but we are experts in stealing, abusing each other, and perpetrating tribalism. Let me start with you, Charles Njagagwa, on your comments. And this sounds like a president who is frustrated and maybe also giving up the fight on corruption, given that he's even making these statements in a foreign country.
Why do you say that he's frustrated?
I'm just saying that it sounds like he is.
To kick the elephant out of the room, you hit on the head. Everybody knows that many of the Kenyans, I remember once I read an article by Chris Kirubi, that was about 7 or 6 years ago. And he said at best Kenyans are good at circulating CVs, but once you leave them with your business, they start looting from you. Now that was an entrepreneur talking about Kenyans who come to him seeking for jobs. Now even the president knows. I was just reading the papers yesterday, and I'm told that what I gathered from that paper collecting is that there are about 52 CORD MPs who are involved in the NYS saga. So when the president says that, he's saying, let us face our problem head on and move on. We clean our country.
So it's not, to you it's not,
that's not frustration. That is not frustration
in somebody who maybe
no. He is ready to clean the lot in government and in Kenya.
Okay. Senator Kajwang.
The president was speaking for himself When he says we are experts in stealing, he's probably talking about his government. When he says that we are experts in insults, you have seen the kind of rhetoric that has been coming from the deputy president and his clique of politicians from URP over the weekend, insulting everybody. I don't think that it is fair to say that all Kenyans are corrupt, that all Kenyans are good at insults. Yes, we've got a corrupt clique. We've got a clique that thrives on insults and division along tribal lines. But that is a minority of Kenyans. First of all, for you to be corrupt, you need to have access to power. To be corrupt in the sense and proportion that we are seeing. Not every Kenyan, in fact the average Kenyan, does not have access to power. So when the president goes to Israel to complain about corruption, thievery and insults in Kenya, he's basically talking about himself
Senator
and his government.
Can we honestly say that Kenyans are not corrupt, given that corruption is not only at the top? We have the private sector. We have, majority of Kenyans, if they're stopped on the road by a policeman, the first thing that comes to mind, rather than being convenienced, let me get my way out. I mean, it seems to have just filtered through the whole country.
It is a defeatist attitude for us to say that all Kenyans are corrupt and that this is a problem afflicting all Kenyans. We must deal with corruption among the ruling elite. In fact, Mike, I want to encourage Kenyans to just go back and reread Chinua Achebe's essay on the trouble with Nigeria. It starts by saying that the trouble in Nigeria, as is the trouble in Kenya, is that of failure of leadership. There is nothing wrong with Kenya as a country, or Kenyans as people, or the air we breathe, or the land upon which we sit in. Our failure is lack of a leadership that inspires and takes that personal responsibility and sets a personal example for all of us to follow. And in fact, back then, there was an editorial that said that to keep a Nigerian away from corruption is like keeping a goat away from eating yams. And that was such a fallacious analogy, because a goat needs to eat yams to survive, but a Kenyan does not need to be corrupt to survive. So this thing of saying that all Kenyans are corrupt and the president is standing in a foreign country where he's supposed to be attracting investors and inspiring confidence in Israelis that they can do business in Kenya. The president is talking about himself and Anne Waiguru and Kipchumba Murkomen and Aden Duale.
All right, let me come to you, Senator.
First and foremost, because I like the point Jagagwa made. I've been on this show many times. I have been indiscriminate in terms of corruption. And I do agree sometimes we in the Code Coalition tend to pacify our own internal corruption. I take note of what the Prime Minister has been saying in the last 2 weeks. I have been adamant that even where code senators, code governors, whoever they are corrupt at the levels of county governments, we must deal with them decisively. And that's why I will be interested in those 52 names of the Code Coalition who have gone to undermine the spirit upon which we have lodged our very legitimate struggles. And until we do things that are drastic, unless we tell these 52 members that none of them are going to be beneficiaries of our nominations on allegations of corruption or for swindling public resources, then we will not deal with corruption decisively. I think the president cannot continue to perpetually complain. He has the instruments. He has the instruments to deal with these transgressions, these vices. He has complained much in the same way any other member of the opposition has complained. Maybe he's ready himself to be in the opposition in the next 1.5 years or so, because that is where they're going. Because you see, when you continue to allow a vice of that nature to define public service, then you get the whole thing wrong. That's why everybody is just conspiring to steal big projects. Conspiracies are all conspiracies for theft.
But as much as Senator Hassan Omar, you mentioned that you'd be interested in the 52
Yes.
CORD members who have been accused or mentioned in corruption. Nothing has been done with those that we know.
But you see, the thing
nothing has been vocally voiced with those that we already know have been mentioned, because here we're not talking about them being guilty, we're talking about them, the perception.
You see, what we have done so far is to try and up this shame factor. So we shame you to a point where some people have had to exit public office based on public pressure. So public can instill certain pressure to a point where now when you're a public officer, you live like the metaphorical Caesar's wife, that you try in so far as practically possible to avoid all temptations that will lead you to public ridicule. So these are some of the issues. I was being told by James Orengo when they recently visited Switzerland. Is it Switzerland or Sweden? They're saying there has been no public official who has been taken to court over corruption. The minute your name is mentioned, you're out of it. So I think what we need to do is to, first and foremost, you're in the PSC, are you in the PSC? But it's the National Assembly. We need, because they said that list was from either the PSC or the PIC. So we need that list. We need to see, I know there are people who are saboteurs of the Code Coalition. I know there are people within our midst who are men and women of the old regime and the old habits and the vices. There are those in our own regime, in our own space, who are beneficiaries of past regimes, land grabbing, corrupt wealth, everything. So therefore, if we need to deal with it decisively, we must first, preempt those who are doing it now, so that we can get the legitimacy to deal with corruption broadly.
Okay.
Thank you. The Senate is very candid on that, but it doesn't have to require names. We know about Wetangula, who were told about the issue of Mala Karoa. So they should start from there. Let them read by example. Since we were told that there were some cigarettes that were being smoked in BAT.
So what is Mala Karoa supposed to do? Resign for what?
So let us begin with the senator, who is already in power. He's, I think, the minority whip in Senate.
Minority leader.
Minority leader. Tell him to quit his position.
You think Wetangula is a chief whip?
Tell him to quit his position. All right? Because you cannot be saying that you made those lists. The lists will come from Parliament. I'm certain you do nothing about it, because everybody will be saying, this is an allegation, let us go for a probe, let us do investigations. But then next time we are heading to the ballot. But since we know that Wetangula has even gone to court, he should be the first one to quit.
Okay, Senator, what action would be taken by the opposition should these names even be given? Because so far, with the names that we already have, let's take the instance of, say, Governor Kidero. Nothing has been said. He may not step aside on his own valuation, but at least there should have been a statement, maybe from the opposition, saying, if this be the case, then we as the opposition, this is our stand. But nothing has been said. But now when names are mentioned on the Jubilee side, the CORD brigade is very quick to come out and say, look, these people should step aside just on the fact that they've been mentioned.
Mike, we are missing the point when we engage in a competition on whose skunk stinks more than the other. The fact is, and I listened to the Deputy President yesterday, saying that we have facilitated the EACC to deal with corruption in this country. A very wrong statement. The EACC required a 2.8 billion budget. The government, in its wisdom, gave EACC 1.7 billion Kenya shillings. And the Deputy President tells the nation that we have given them all the money they need? Wrong. That was a lie to Kenyans. Now, then you say that Raila Odinga should also be talking about corruption everywhere. We give the EACC 1.8 billion Kenya shillings every year to deal with the menace that is corruption. How much money do we give Raila Odinga to fight corruption? Zero. Raila Odinga is doing it in his patriotic duty as a Kenyan and as a leader in Kenya. When you come to the Kidero saga, who was the person who almost messed it up, for lack of a better word? It is the president. When initially he argued that he was not going to set up a tribunal to get to the bottom of the issues that allegations against Tunoi over, and he brought up some very spurious arguments, oblivious to the constitutional requirement that once a request was put to him to set up a tribunal, he had to set up a tribunal. The person who's sabotaging the fight against corruption, and even this issue that touches on Kidero, is the president himself. We in the opposition, we said this, that yes, some allegations have been brought up against Justice Tunui, that Kidero bribed him. What the Chief Justice did was the right thing to do. With speed, he went ahead and the JSC sat down, and the JSC recommended that a tribunal should be set up. Compare that with the Anne Waiguru case. Anne Waiguru, even though today the people who are defending her say that she stole, it took so many months for things to get to where they are. And even as we speak today, there's a letter out there in the public domain saying that Anne Waiguru is clean and is not culpable of any economic crimes. We've got people who still believe that Anne Waiguru is a whistleblower or a performer. In fact, Anne Waiguru was not sacked from the cabinet for corruption issues. She left on the basis of doctors' advice. It cannot be that the opposition is not doing what it is supposed to do. It is the EACC where we put in money. It is a government that has a social contract with Kenya.